Hi, today we're going to be talking a little bit about the job of a product manager. So what product managers do, what is the role, just like, yeah, what it's all about. And this video hopefully will help people that are looking to transition into product management from another discipline and they want to just find out, is this the right role to move into? Maybe from like software engineering or like a more like commercial, like, yeah, marketing role in the business. It's also for people who, I guess, maybe just like new to the working world and considering all their options and want to see what product management really is, from my perspective at least. And yeah, otherwise just the people just curious about product management in general. So let's jump right in. So I'm going to preface this with the fact that the role of a product manager really does vary depending on the business. I know that's a really annoying thing to say, but I think it's really important to consider this when you're looking at like product management jobs on LinkedIn or Google or wherever it may be. Because yeah, what you're doing as a product manager will depend on the size of the business, it will depend on the product itself, like if it's B2C, B2B, or if it's an internal product. It will depend on the business and like how they run their product team. It will depend on your leadership because they'll shape how the product teams run. Depend on yourself because you also get to shape your role depending on what you find interesting and what your strengths are and what you think it's important to do as a product manager. So yeah, like quick preface, because I think that's quite important to say and like important to bear in mind when you're looking at like product roles. It's not like a one size fits all. And I think you could say the same for a lot of jobs. Like maybe there are some jobs where it's like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of one where it'd be very transferable. But I think, yeah, like most jobs, it varies. And even within an organization, I don't know if I said that, like you could have 3 product managers and they're all doing different things, like, yeah. So yeah, that's the preface. And then, yeah, what does a product manager do? So in a nutshell, the product manager basically owns a product, so software product, or a part of a product. And right, what does that mean? So let's say that the product is something like YouTube. They might own something like the search functionality and the recommendations. So when you're typing into YouTube and you get suggested something, that will be because somebody has thought, what would somebody want to know, or what would be a good suggestion for somebody based on like just typing in a few letters or typing in a word. Or it might be someone at Spotify who is responsible for the playlist functionality and making sure that it's really easy, or just owning everything about how a user adds songs to a playlist. So that's like the little 3-dot menu and like the button add to playlist and what that wording is. And that's what you call like a user journey, basically, like how, or like a user experience, like how the user does something on the product. So yeah, and at smaller businesses, or I don't know, just depends on the business really, you might own like a larger remit. So it might be that like at your company there is like an overarching type of product, like an overarching goal. It might be, I don't know, like, yeah, let's say it's like music, but they have like different products within that. So they have like one for the consumer, one which is like their B2B offering, one which is like recording music or something like that. And then you might have product managers that own each of those like verticals, pillars, product lines, yeah, call them all these different things. So yeah, you'll have that kind of different ownership. And then what does that mean to own? So again, this varies depending on the company, but from my experience, and then I'll like give some snippets of what I've heard at other businesses. From my experience, the product, and I think this is like quite like a classic product manager role. The product manager is responsible for basically listening to the customer and understanding what their problems are in terms of the job that they're doing. So if it's me creating videos, like what do I find difficult about this process? What do I find difficult about editing? What do I find difficult about uploading to a platform? What do I find difficult about the YouTube platform in general? Like they'll try and dig into understanding the customer problem, and then take those problems and with their team will go into that in a bit more detail, they'll basically translate those problems into solutions. And those solutions and the problems, I guess, that you decide to focus on often correlate or like relate to a business objective. So that could be like this year or this quarter, we're expanding into this geography, or we're looking at growth because we want to grow our revenue, or we're looking at retention, or we want to, you know, it kind of depends on the business really, but they'll have a goal like that. So you got to keep that in mind when you're thinking about the customer problems that you're going to be considering and that you're going to be solving. And you also just got to think about what's happening in the market. So what your competitors doing, you don't want to cookie cutter copy them, but like you want to make sure that you're not offering like you're not missing something in their offering which is really valued by customers, or if there's like some industry standard that you should be aware of that your competitors are doing. So you look at those things, and then you basically make decisions based on like these three main areas of like context, about what you're going to actually build on the product. And how that works is that you'll be like, cool, okay, so based on all this, I think we need to build this. So I need to build a feature or a product that enables a user to do this. So as a user, I need to be able to click a button and upload a video to a platform, so that I can share it with my community and build a community. And you'll often work directly with a team, like a engineering team, I guess like a tech team, which involves working with a designer, a product designer, or maybe multiple product designers, it depends on your business, who will basically translate like what you need from that solution into an actual like drawn, or like often a designer will work in a tool called Figma, which is basically a design tool where they'll create like a, what's the word, like a design for your product. So it's and you'll go back and forth with them, like, oh no, like this doesn't really work for the user, like they need to be able to do this or whatever. And then simultaneously you'll also work with the engineers. So you've got back-end engineers and front-end engineers, and I think also like full stack engineers as well, who do everything. And back-end engineers will typically deal with more, as clues in the name, like back-end stuff, like more like infrastructure, like how it works behind the scenes, like how data is handled and stored, and that kind of thing. And then the front-end engineer works on the front end of the platform or the product, which is literally like taking the designer's designs, and I guess like there's a bit of negotiation between all of you. Like it's not like I say we're doing this and the designer says we're doing it this way, and then the front engineer just executes it and the back engineer, it's a little bit of like discussion as well, like to figure out like how we best to do it and what's technically feasible between everyone, and then like marrying up all those perspectives. And anyway, so the front end engineer will basically make it happen on the front end, and yeah, just basically make it exist, and advise on like what's best from a front end, like from an actual engineering perspective. And then you also work with a QA, they're called, like quality assurance, and they basically test what's on the platform and make sure that everything works. And as a product manager, you'll also do a bit of testing as well, like making sure that the thing that has been built in a way that like meets what you expected and like does what you expected it to do basically, and that there aren't any bugs and like issues that, you know, like flows that just don't work or things like that. So so that's what you'll do. So work with the team, and there are all these words like agile and Kanban, and like within agile like scrum ceremonies, stand-ups, and like so much terminology that I think is a little bit like off-putting, and it's like quite a off-putting, but also like it's not very inclusive for people that aren't in the industry, and also like it's not always relevant to every product team. I just went into way too much detail about agile and Kanban and stuff, so I'm going to come back to that another day because I think it's yeah, it's detail. But yeah, you'll work like that, like yeah, you'll have ways of working with your team to build stuff basically, to like plan and prioritize feature development based on different things. We'll go into that another time as well, like different ways of like prioritizing roadmap items, and even also like what roadmaps are. So you've got all your like more like functional side of what a product manager does, and then you also got the more, I guess, like commercial side of what a product manager does, which is, this is where sometimes the product role is described, the product manager is described as the CEO of the product, and a lot of people don't like this description or like think it's a bit reductive, and yeah, I think it's just like a tool for helping people to understand it really. But what that means is that like you are responsible for ensuring that your product is achieving business goals and like product outcomes. So is it generating revenue if it's a revenue generating product, or if it's a free product-led growth product, is it bringing traction and users to your product? Like, is it actually achieving the goal that you set out to achieve? What's the like general feedback on the product? Like talking to users, like do they like your product? Like, do they think it's good? And again, that links into things like revenue and adoption, because if people like your product, then they'll use it. So you're also monitoring like the commercial side of things, like how is your product line doing? Like what's the health of the product? And then at the same time, because you'll be like releasing or shipping like new features and things like that, you want to make sure that other sides of the business, like marketing and sales, are in the loop on what you're doing, and basically that you have a way of telling the customer that you've done something, that you've built something. So I think that's often like, or sometimes referred to as like a go-to-market strategy. So like, how are we going to enter this market or enter this segment, or like get the product into the eyes and the ears and the hands of your customer? And that could be like a marketing strategy, or that could be, you know, like social media posts, or it could just be equipping your sales team with the right narrative and value propositions about your product and your new features, such that they can communicate that to the customer and like demo it in a way that aligns with what you've actually built. So yeah, I think that's basically everything. I guess you're also like constantly thinking like, what is the vision for my product, and like, how am I going to get there? Like, what do I want this product to look like in 6 months time? What do I want it to look like in 1 month's time or a year? And yeah, like just figuring out like where your product's going. So yeah, I think that's everything. Well, that's like a high level, and it's made me think that there are so many things I can dig into. So if you have any like specific things that like I said and you want more clarification on, or just other questions that you have about the product manager role, please do comment them below, and I can make future videos specifically on like what you're looking for. But yeah, I'll also try and make videos about other things that I think are useful to know, or like challenges that I've had to overcome. So yeah, I'll just wrap up by saying that I love being a product manager. I think it's the coolest job. I think, having worked in other commercial roles, for me, I love how the product manager role basically like ties together all of the other roles, but like you don't have to sell. Like, you're not a salesperson, you don't have to sell directly, and you're not a marketing person, so you don't have to like do all the details of a marketing campaign. So it's like quite a creative job, but also you have to be quite diligent, organized, and work with a range of different people, which I think is really cool. You're constantly learning because you're working with so many different people, and I think that's great as well. And I think it's nice to have ownership over something when you're working for a business, because yeah, then you can see progress, you can see how it changes from from nothing to something. You're literally building, you're creating. So yeah, that's what I think is really cool about it, and I hope that this has helped some people to get a better understanding of the role. Like I say, comment any questions, thoughts. This has been like very high level. I've missed loads of things and probably haven't explained some things very well, so yeah, disclaimer. But yeah, I'll make other videos in the future explaining other bits, so keep an eye out.